to another Cosmic Root show, and I'm just preparing. So, Saad, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Let's say we had a few technical hiccups today in our show, but hopefully the listeners were able to listen. So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but
Uh-huh.
we got through it. So I'm just happy. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens, man.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what happens. We got to flow,
Exactly. Yes.
Flow with it. All right. So,
What are you going to talk about today?
well, I'm going to kind of bounce off from what I was saying last Tuesday because I decided to go into because I deal with the astrology, the astro weather, and the consciousness, intelligence within these archetypes within ourselves,
Yes.
and whether making the transits and the energy behind the inner the moods and the feelings that come up and within the collective consciousness and individually
Yes.
to understand ourselves better and navigate through this vibrational ocean
Yes.
of consciousness to be in alignment with our authentic I rather than getting caught up and still getting caught up in the programs of the egoic mind, the human personality, and its programs and its stories. So we can better navigate ourselves by tuning more within and listening through and observing, and also when we're dealing with knowledge, there's a way of us discerning whether it is in alignment with the truth, the universal truth within ourselves, or if it's a man-made construct or just something being played out in our own minds based on the stories and the programs we have in the subconscious. So these transits, can assist us because it's you assisting yourself if you work with yourself. That makes sense?
Yes. So,
You see?
yes.
But it's about that discernment and the faculty of the intuition as that tool to assist one in discerning, what you call separating the chaff from the wheat from the chaff,
Sure.
You know.
Tuning and
So,
tuning is so important because obviously, if you don't tune in, things will happen and you'll get a shock. And
yeah,
and we have to tune in with nature, especially.
absolutely.
And so, yeah, because otherwise, how can we be truly alive if we are just going through the motions? I just think of the everyday life. It's just, you get up, you eat, you know, but that's just like a superficial thing. The real
It's
thing is to connect
mechanical.
yourself with, yeah, what is my, what's the purpose? Because every day is a new weather. We know. Also, people, you can say, for example, when we wear clothes. I know this is not to take it in the wrong way, like fashion, but you wear clothes which are for you. You tune in
Yeah,
to what is your fitting with your character, with your nature. So I could see,
exactly. Yeah,
and you're talking about the stars, if I can use it like that. Astrology, and whatever the vibrations are, you're tuning in with those vibrations. So you're
exactly.
tuning in
You
like
know,
that.
yeah, because you're tuning into your own inner guiding star. Just like when you deal with these ships and so forth, at sea, they have to depend upon the compass and the stars. You see what I
Right.
mean? For navigation. You
Yes.
see, they have to focus on, the well, like what they would call the Big Dipper or the Northern Star to make them know where they are.
Yeah.
So it's the stars. So as above, so below. But it's also as within, from within. Without becomes the environmental mirror or energetic mirror reflecting back. You see what I mean?
Sure.
The vibrational inner signature that we are aligned with or not aligned with. Because that's the whole thing. It's about like what you said with the clothes.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy. You see, because nowadays things before there would be tailors or you would have clothes made specifically to fit your kind of shape.
Yeah. Yes.
You'd have those. You'd be able to be more individual. Nowadays, you just got this mass market in a certain clothes, and that's or if that's the style that's in, that's the trend, then
Exactly.
that's what people get promoted. And wear that because that's what's in. You don't wear that anymore. That's what's out. And it's like, if you're not tuning into yourself, you're gonna, you're being led by what outside is telling you to be, or comparing yourself with others rather than checking in with yourself and be honest and truthful to what you prefer. You see what I mean? You don't have to fit in with the crowd, so to speak. So there's this uniqueness of our own selves because we come from the unique source of all existence. Therefore, we inherit a nature that's intrinsic to us, different to the societal cultural conditioning. So astrology, as everything is within where the microcosm of the macrocosm, it's understanding to reflect, look back into yourself. You see what I mean? To tune into these inner forces, these inner centers of energy, of consciousness, intelligence. To know thyself. Yes.
Yes, it's really, how can I say, when you get into this, it's really exciting, I can say.
It is, because when you really check it out, we are the greatest mystery that should be studied, and we are here to study ourselves. Even the word ology as in astrology, or ology as in psychology. Ology is to study, and psyche is to do with the aspect of your mind, or your whole psyche. So it's about you studying your own consciousness, your own self. And astro is star, and ology again is study. So it's about studying the star within you. And they also even refer to actors on the big screen and so forth as stars. You get what I'm saying? Yes. And they have a place in Hollywood where they walking this place where they got people as stars in the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
So you get, there's an alluding to the reality of ourselves, but we also have a counterfeit, a copy that's trying to make us take that for the original when it's all based upon us. You see what I mean? The counterfeit is basically being developed based upon trying to copy the authentic. You see what I mean?
Yes.
And we got to wake up and realize we're the authentic, source of what the counterfeit is trying to fashion itself on, and then deceive people into accepting the counterfeit as the authentic. And then we all know what happens with that eventually. You know what I mean?
And you're talking about our stars and artists and talking about clothes, and I was thinking of Lady Gaga because she wears different clothes every day, and she says this because of what she feels that day, and her personality is being reflected in these clothes. I'm not trying to say that everything she does is good, of course, because but I think, but let's not go comment on that side. She's living her, what that's how she chooses her clothes or makeup, whatever it is what she senses within her. So that's a good example, basically, of how we can all be unique ourselves, be unique.
Exactly, because what the emphasis is what you're using there about using Lady Gaga as an example. The emphasis you're making about the feelings and how one feels, and it's what one chooses to, what feeling one chooses to align themselves with, because we can choose how we feel in any moment. This is really when we're stepping into that degree of spiritual self-mastery. We realize that feelings are something that we work with rather than become slaves to, so to speak. Yeah? Yes. And so when we are dealing with, each day is a new energy. That's right. Each day is a brand new, fresh beginning. But a lot of us hold on to the previous day and the previous week, the previous month, the previous years, and therefore we bring all of those stuff into each day to make it seem like, everything's the same. You know what I mean? Yes. Nothing's changed. But really, each day is an opportunity for us to realize it's new energy. The way what I thought yesterday, I don't have to be attached to that. I can grow beyond. I can expand beyond that. and align with how I want the energy, what energy I want to align with. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That feels the most positive to me. You know, the most expansive, the most exciting, as you're saying. You know, that which makes you that you're aligning with, like you're putting on clothes now. See what I mean?
Yeah.
That feels good to you. Yeah. So even the clothes as an analogy again, you choose something based on how it feels as well as how it looks. It must feel good. If it feels good, it feels right, you're saying, yeah, I like this. This is for me. You see what I mean? If it doesn't feel right, you're going to get out of it. Yeah? And try and find something else. So the feeling is an indicator of the vibration that we are attuning ourselves to. So you can then say clothing ourselves with a vibration. You see? That is unique to ourselves. Then we step in that. We walk in that radiance and experience what is unique for us to experience differently to somebody else. And the whole thing is to be embracing our uniqueness is what is necessary, because we're not all the same. And that diversity is really acknowledging your own inner uniqueness. That colors everything and doesn't make everything bland. You get what I mean? Everything was just the same. However, we all do come from, or our originating source or source of being is the same. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the unification. You can say that's the oneness. You know, all rivers flowing from different directions on the earth, but they're flowing to one source, the ocean. You see what I mean?
Sure.
But they have their own unique expressions and ways of getting there, you know? And, yeah.
I mean, it just shows me, everybody's different, and they are, the harmony comes from the mix of all the different people. So, because one person has one talent, the other one has another talent, and you just work together, because one person can't do everything. So you need everyone. I mean, I know I'm getting slightly into politics, but do you remember there was a slogan with Labour, education, 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 and they were basically putting everybody to go to uni, and before there was polytechnic and some people didn't go to uni, but then there was having this shift, this political shift that everybody should go to uni, and then so the other trades, like let's say in I've forgotten the word for carpentry, let's say, which you don't need to go to uni for, and such. I don't know actually what exactly happened with this sort of push that kids were being, not exactly forced, but directed in that direction. And I don't know if that was really basically, as I said, I don't know if we should go into this political thinking, but somehow. This was I think partly this was because Tony Blair thought, Britain needs to develop technology. The world is becoming very technological, and everything IT this and IT that. I'm just making it. So I think everybody was being pushed into uni education. Of course, there are people who still don't go to uni, but let's say that was the main push going on. But let's say some people are not going to do well at uni, or that's not meant for them. And is that again? It's like a herd mentality being pushed into one way of thinking, and the kids, of course, they're how can I say? I don't want to use the word vulnerable, but they're impressionable, isn't it? And,
exactly. Yeah. And I feel what you're saying there, because I was working in I was doing this graduate as a teacher, a music learner teacher, and inside there, what you're saying about what they did with the education, they were taking out all the creative stuff out of curriculum and was just kind of focusing it on what they call SMART, which is science, maths, or science, maths, arithmetic, and technology, something like that. Anything to do with creative expression, music, dance, the drummers, theatrics, they weren't really supporting that. They just wanted everything to be very mental. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with education, which means to rear out that which is already latent within oneself, which is what education really means, which is not what people are getting, or the children, or what we was actually getting in those institutions. It's more of a programming. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Conditioning the next generation, try to mold their minds to become servants for, you know, some governmental external agenda. You see what I mean? To what they're going to say is, you know, like they're thinking for the best interest of the youngsters. But the truth of the matter is that, like you were saying, no, everyone doesn't even learn in the same way, and everyone's going to have different interests. And what happens is that everyone's got unique traits and unique talents. But if they're not tapped into through a flexibility and a variety of abilities, you see what I mean, that are valuable, then instead of these getting developed in individuals where they can find themselves being unique at some other thing, you know, different to the avenue that they're being steered down in the universities, then you end up just getting programmed drones, because they're going to be the future who's going to become the ones who grow up to implement certain things. You see what I mean?
Sure.
That may not be beneficial to themselves and the collective. Because when you're not thinking for yourself and you're being controlled by an external authority and an institution that from the moment you're in it, it's like your mind is now being undermined by the institutional ideals. You see what I mean? And what they put on the curriculum to say this is what's important, without even taking anything in stock of the uniqueness of each individual and the fact that each one is going to learn in different ways. You know, some folk are hands-on, some folk need to read what they hear someone saying, some folk need to, you know, some folk are more kind of visual. You see what I mean? Some are kinesthetic. You with me? Some are more emotional. They feel into something, you know, instead of mentally processing it in the usual, you know, societal way of logic. You know, so it doesn't cater for this deeper aspect. As I said, education means to rear out of one that which is latent. The potential that is already there, latent within, you see? And when we call education, that's not what it does. It just programs most of us to just move with this herd mentality, as you said. Just repeating what one has heard, or just following the ass in front of them as the one behind them is doing. And the only one that's at the front, is the one that everyone's following. And the one at the front may not even know where they're going, you know, but everyone's following that. See, so not to get into the politics, as he said, but in these areas is also ways of how the mind is being manipulated. Because if you get young, we all went through the institution, what they have is a system set up. And as you said, youngsters are impressionable. We are all being impressionable. But there's a deeper power within ourselves. There's this innermost self, this deeper intrinsic reality. You see what I mean? That is present. And it makes its presence felt more to those who take the time to just reflect from time to time. When we're youngsters, we do a lot of that. We actually go within ourselves and explore within our consciousness. You see what I mean? Until you're told you're daydreaming, or you know, you must get back to reality and focus on the program that they're trying to enforce upon you in the schools.
I'm thinking that
Then, you know, but there is an innate. Go on.
I was going to say the young people are very idealistic, and you know, I'm sure you can never forget those days. You know, we want, we want justice. We want, we want the world to be a happy place, basically, and and then we look at the, we get, let's say, disappointed when we see, let's say, the reality when the elder ones, if you can call it that way, don't seem to want to do that way. That we want to see that now with the climate protesters a lot right now. Again, I seem to be getting into the politics again. So, but they're the ones driving it now. It's like the rest of the world is only doing it out of politeness, and they just want to. I will say again, I'm maybe going to stay a little bit political, still, because let's say there's a economy that everybody's living into, and it has been set in a particular direction for so many hundreds and thousands of years. Like obviously we use oil and everything that carbon based and so on, and then obviously electricity. Let's say I have a friend actually who keeps thinking, we say the world is overpopulated, but somehow he keeps thinking everybody can be provided for. It's just something new has to come. For example, we're using cars which are on the road, but when you watch Star Wars, you saw the cars are flying. So that's the next level of the development of technology. And when you can fly, it's a three-dimensional, isn't it? It's not two-dimensional. The car is only on the road; it's two-dimensional. So if we could make food, this is a next level of making food. I don't know how that can be. Then we could support the population. So this particular person keeps thinking it doesn't believe that this overpopulation. It's just we just need to find a way. Well, I would say it must be environmentally friendly way and a natural way. That's the way I would, if I were to put some specifics on that. Because yes, of course, they have technology. They can do create artificial food. I mean, so there's some. This is not something nice, really. What I'm seeing, how science is developing. I'm going to call it artificial food, but I can't exactly think of an example right now. But they're trying to do that now. You don't grow it anymore. You create it in a lab. I don't know if you've heard of that.
You see,
it's really like a terrible. Sorry.
Was it Santos Sobe? I mean, you see what's going on there? You see the word artificial. You've got artificial intelligence, AI. Yeah.
Yes.
And when I was saying about there's the counterfeit, and there's the authentic, and then there's the counterfeit. Yeah.
Right.
It's like there is, rather than you see, there's a natural and there's a natural cosmic in its spiritual technology. Okay.
Right.
And this is consciousness intelligence. It's life. It creates everything, the boundless universe, everything, every cell, everything in existence is drawn out of universal consciousness intelligence. And there's this inner spiritual technology, which is the authentic intelligence. Notice that's AI as well.
Right. Okay.
And this is the times we're in. Is really, it's about the waking up of the intrinsic self, okay? With all the abilities. If you notice on most of the movies now and series, there's a lot of this, when I was growing up, there was comic books, superheroes and so forth, which, as a youngster, that used to tune me into the universe, you know what I mean? Because I learned a lot about vibrations by just reading comics, okay? And the point I'm making here is that then now you got movies made where you're seeing those, you're in a physical form, but you have cosmic power. You have inner abilities which are intrinsic to you, whereas we're talking about the DNA opening up and so forth, to allow, the higher intelligence to operate through and flow through to activate more abilities, or what they would say superhuman, which would be above human, super above, okay? But then you got the artificial version of that.
Yeah, is that like Matrix? You think of the Matrix?
Yeah. Well, you can say that this is, the Matrix is this mental construct, okay, of false reality to make you believe that what you're seeing outside is real, or the source, when actually it's all a projection from your inner being. You see what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah, this gets deep in it, because it's like, you see, this whole thing about tuning inward, and they talk about the rise of the feminine, And a lot has even hijacked that to be caught up in the agenda of the egoic, the feminine egoic minds, just like you got the masculine egoic minds, and you're just dealing with, you're thinking you're dealing with this feminine energy as a person or a personality. When you're dealing with a principle here, a divine principle. So the feminine energy would be symbolized as earth and water because it's an inward sign. It's feminine is really about also the inner world of feeling, yeah, which is how you tune into the intuitive intelligence deep within the subconscious. You see what I mean? And or within the heart, yeah. That is precognitive. It's a higher intelligence that goes beyond the intellect. The point I'm making here is that the direction most generations have been conditioned to focus on the exterior. Whereas there was the times when we were way before, because when they talk about progress, and we used to hear these things that they used to try to give you in school, and even now, try to say that what was before, people were less progress or less intelligent, you know? And now people are more intelligent, more progressive. And that's a load of nonsense. It's more of a digression that's going on now, where there's an overemphasis with the physical, material, technology, and to have people serve that and see that as the way, the salvation, you know? The ways, the solutions, and all of that. And then you're looking at the individual, which is made to kind of feel that, well, they don't have anything intrinsically of value, when they really do. They're the true power. Consciousness is the real true power. But what's happening is that we've got artificial intelligence, artificial versions of what's trying to copy the natural, okay? And people are to try, and they're trying to make people buy into that. So then you're going to get artificial people. You're eating artificial food. You see what I mean?
Sure.
People are having artificial interactions through this artificial intelligence. People want to be enhanced, and they want to move to this idea of superhuman. And then there's this idea, they'll buy into it to say, well, if this gadget, you put this chip inside your hand, you can just wave across, you just put your hand across this beam and the door opens up, or, you know what I'm saying? These people kind of buy into this whole idea of superhuman, but it's from the artificial way, you know? And that, you know, this gets deep, bro. You know, this gets very deep, because you're dealing with, there's the natural law, which reflects universal truth. And then you're dealing with that which is unnatural, which is just reflecting the egoic, you can say the egoic delusions of man. You see what I mean? When he's not looking to understand that there is a higher power and source that all things have been drawn out from. You see? And that there is a universal spiritual law that is really the law of your own being. And when we're in harmony with that principle, we are fully unlimited. You see what I mean? And we're able to express our true innate nature, which is the full goodness of source, which is of the goodness of life. Life, nature is health, growth, regeneration. You see what I mean? Nourishment, nutrition. You see? Fulfillment of every need. All working in perfect harmony within a divine system and order. But then when you're dealing with artificial intelligence, and you're dealing with minds that don't want to understand that there is a higher reality. You see what I mean? Where there's higher existence taking place. And you even got the lower vibrations, where you got lower expressions of life acting itself out. And the thing with ourselves, we are a conduit that can decide, to raise our consciousness, to be a conduit for the higher, more beautiful, harmonious creations to be expressed through our uniqueness of our soul, based on the unique inner traits that we have and abilities. Yes. Or we can descend and go into lower vibrational expressions of what then gets manifested on the planet. You see what I mean? Because we're living we're basically what we are experiencing is the manifestation of our beliefs on this plane. But because there's this artificial way of looking at things and these man-made beliefs and looking outside to the exterior, comparing yourself with this and that, and in order to feel validated, the whole sense of self-worth is such an intrinsic and such a foundation. You know, self-worth is behind so much of the issues that spiral out into so much other destructive ways. You see, but you know what you brought in there gets very intricate, because this now sounds like a sci-fi movie, and for those who are very caught up in technology leads the way, and would find this kind of like, because you got some folk who just deal with science, okay, and not understand, but then science really should be working with spirituality, rather than you having them separate. So, because when you're dealing with spirituality, different to religion, different to, again, man-made interpretations of that which is beyond what they want to make it, and just use it to control the ignorance, then what we end up getting is this separation between spirit and matter. And the thing is, it's like, then it makes it difficult for individuals to understand themselves. Because rather than being taught about who you are, which is what true knowledge is supposed to do, bring you back home to the nature of the soul. That's what knowledge is really for. Everything has purpose.
That's what I wanted to say, because Gregory says this a lot. You can only do things according to what you know, right? So I mean, that's the best you can do. You can act according to what you know. So if you know earthly things, and you want to live on the earth, which is have a home, you want to have food, you want whatever earthly things that you want, your focus will always be on that and not about spiritual things. So that's why we're making this artificial food or artificial whatever we are doing, the car, all these things. That's all good for the earth. It's brilliant that we need it. But as you say, the real thing is consciousness. And if you're conscious of who you are, then what is your purpose, why you're here, what is what abilities you have. Then the more you know about your abilities, then you will use aware of those abilities. I mean, intuition, we have mentioned it a lot. But once you realize your real goal. This is like I mean, I don't know so much what you say in your show, Siayome, but the higher purpose is for us to grow from unconscious to become conscious, and to reach a world where the consciousness, let's say the spiritual world, actually exists, because the earth is material, it's matter, it is not actually spiritual. Yes, we are living on this earth, but the final goal for every person, from at least the way from my understanding, is that we are supposed to leave this earth and enter you could call it the conscious world, the spiritual world, let's make it like that, spiritual world, which is not on earth. So this is just a journey we are spending on the earth to mature and grow, and if you know the goal, because that's the whole point of this knowing thyself, being conscious of your ability, conscious of everything. There's a purpose, but the purpose is only partly on the earth to mature and grow. But the real ultimate goal is to reach to where we were meant to be, our origin actually, spiritual origin, and that's where we're meant to return to. So I don't know, Siayome, if that's how you see it as well.
I hear what you're saying, resonate with a lot of what you're saying. I would express it a little differently in certain areas. But how I would reply to that is the fact that we are to evolve our consciousness, we are to expand, unfold, expand our consciousness beyond the material plane, okay? Beyond the human, what they call human consciousness, yeah?
Yes.
Now, that is definitely the thing. You see what I mean? It's about liberation and freedom, because the material plane is a limitation, you see? But this is the thing. When we're dealing with spirit and matter, they're not separate. And when we go into spiritual universal laws, and we can accept even with the science of today, which what they're confirming basically of what has been known throughout antiquity, is that all is vibration, all is consciousness, all is correspondence, all is vibration, and that there are these immutable laws, unchanging principles, as I said, the universal spiritual laws of our own being, as the foundation of existence to how everything comes into being. Then you got these mutable principles, which is for us to understand them, so it keeps us in harmony with ourselves. You see what I mean?
Sure.
So we are to expand, evolve our consciousness beyond the material human plane. At the same time, when there's this sense of separation that we are to leave this physical plane, in the sense that and all right, here's this, because there's a oneness with the spiritual working through the material. Right. You have the invisible operating through the visible. You have the infinite working through the finite. Yeah. Okay. So you have the greater working through the lesser, but the lesser is one, but not in with the one. The lesser is one with the greater, but the lesser isn't lesser as in the way we would use the word as being as something degrading. You know what I mean? Inferior. Sure. You get what I'm saying? Because these words as well can misconstrue the deeper meaning in where we're going here, because of people's attachments to words, reactions to words, and limited perception about or definition of what they believe that word means. So what you're saying can get misinterpreted.
Yes.
But to clarify what I'm saying, all is vibrations. So basically, consciousness, when we deal with the universe and everything that we see materialized, so to speak, the material that is that what is invisible is being adorned in order to make it visible, and also to use it as a creative vehicle for its own expression and experience. Then there is a need to understand that we're dealing with vibration. So when the higher vibration is more subtle, but there's a place where thoughts become things, where the vibration from on high slows down to now become visible based upon what is to be created from the intention of the divine will, the universal will of the spirit. So which is consciousness, right?
Yes.
So there's a saying, the kingdom of heaven is within you, right?
Right. Yes.
And then there's this belief that you have to die to go to heaven. So you got this belief in the separation of your spiritual source, and which is non-physical, and the physical extension, the creative vehicle and mental creative instrument, that is where part of the non-physical consciousness is being focused through, right? A personality. Yes. And we're made to believe that this is separate, Now, I'm going to come with another statement, firstly, because I'm going to clarify something. So we have the kingdom of heaven is within us. Then we have this statement which is said, I am the Father. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I am the Father are one. Okay? Right. So we got the kingdom of heaven is within you. I am the Father are one.
Yes.
Yeah? And so with that, I'm going into this point where it's like, right there, this is integrity. You're talking about integration. When you make a statement, the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yes.
It's not a separative statement. It's an integrative statement. It's a statement of integrity.
Yes.
Right? I am the Father of one. That's another integrated statement, a statement of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Real integrity, not dealing with morality of human morality, where you're dealing with morality is subjective. I'm not talking about morality when I'm talking about integrity. I'm talking about the etymology of what the word means. It means an integrated whole.
Right.
Okay? Not a divided, separate, there's other, and there's an outwardness, and there's separateness. The statement, the kingdom of heaven is within you, is an integral statement. So you get what I'm saying, and what I mean, just making clear my point here. And also, I am the Father are one. So the point I'm getting to here is that you got many folks who's got their, because of the belief, the man-made belief, which separates you. It makes you believe there's a duality, and that this duality is in conflict with one another, right? And as a man thinketh in their heart, the subconscious, so shall he become. You've heard that, right?
Yes.
So it's to understand that, and then you got people who believe they have to die to go to heaven, right? So therefore, it's like you become spiritual only when you physically make a transit, right? So it's an idea. So it's a belief that you're not spiritual now. You only become spiritual after you so-called die, which is not a reality either, right?
Yeah.
So there's a separation there. So it's only an idea, but yet not realizing the truth, the real amazing power we have. We can give life to things that are not even true and make it have power over you as long as you don't realize yourself. You see what I mean? So people will believe in this thing. So now there's this fear of dying or moving into the spiritual realm. And then there's this idea that when you leave, depending on how you function here, right? What seeds you sown, so to speak, you will leave and you'll move into a higher realm of existence, and be where all the angels are. Okay? There's that belief. But here's the thing. Everything is vibration. And there is a truth that when you leave here, if you have freed yourself from the program of false identification and don't have any of those desires that pull you back to the earth plane, because you've purified your consciousness from the egoic force identification, all right, of separation, and while you've been here, you truly come to that point where you've become totally absorbed with the source self and fully awakened to who you are, then your vibration is going to be at such a frequency when you choose to leave, that you would move into the vibrational plane that you resonate with, because there is a law that only like attracts like.
Yes.
There's only that which is of a vibrational resonance, like unto itself, will be drawn unto itself. You see what I mean? So like that which is of itself is drawn unto itself. That's why birds of a feather flock together. That's another way of talking about law of vibrations. Yeah? So that principle is universal. So you're a vibrational match based upon you waking up to who you truly is. You will vibrate and leave and move to that higher plane. But here's where it gets even more integrated.
Right.
The fact that when people believe that when they die they go to heaven, but then you got a statement that says to you, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So the point I'm making here is that you don't need to die to go to heaven. And the whole idea of bringing heaven to earth as that type of statement now is telling you our infinite potential of when we realize who he is and know that we are master creators in because we have the nature of source within ourselves. And when we're in alignment with that intrinsic nature, we will be able to express to ourselves the truth of that nature, the blessedness of that nature. So you bring heaven to earth because you bring in higher vibratory, creative, high vibratory manifestations, actualizations. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because everything is coming from the inside out. So what I'm basically saying, there is a time when you're dealing with higher consciousness embodied within a physical vehicle, is why the ability to manifest great, amazing things, that now seems to be like, wow, how was that possible? But the thing is, it's all about how high you raise your consciousness, how much you expand into the awakening of the infinity of yourself. Then there's more more grand things you'll be able to manifest and materialize. back to what you know. You can only do what you know, innit? You know, you can only, what you're aware of is all you can work on.
That's right.
So if you have an awareness the size of a ping pong ball compared to the awareness the size of a planet, there's going to be more power, creative power, and more of a high vibrational, that which exists on more high vibrational planes, because these planes are also within ourselves, in our realms. Yeah? So we're the ones who become the conduit, the physical creative vehicle for heaven, and heaven is an analogy for a place of higher vibration. Yeah? Yes. Bliss, joy, peace, love. You get what I'm saying? The fulfillment of every need. That's the realignment when we align with the heaven in ourselves. Am I making sense to you, my brother?
Absolutely. I want to bring in a little another picture here. Because I said that, with matter and spirit, I want to go into that because matter and spirit. Matter is the simply, let's put it, earthly or physical, and then the spirit is non-physical. And I know this sounds like we're separating, but it's not because I'm trying to sort of. I just want to present this picture. Really, it's not about disagreeing or not agreeing something. It's just about because as I said, the more we see, let's say, the better everything is going to be. I'm just going to put it like that. And okay, I'm going to make it in this very simple way. Matter has a finite life, while the spirit is a, in quotes, infinite life.
Yeah. Yes.
And we are living on this, in this world of matter, on this earth and this physical universe. It is physical, so it is, and by definition, there is a limit to how long the sun is going to be there. Let's say there's even, a limit to the physical universe. There's just a limit.
Yes, I get what you're saying with that. I know where you're going to go with it.
So the spirit is, and yes, both of them are vibration. I have no issue with that. In fact, another word another word we could use for vibration, or everything really, is energy. Everything is energy. We are energy, but because look, we are conscious. Yes, I can't say I look at the table and that is the same. Yes, it's made of energy, and I'm made of energy. Yet I don't connect myself with the table because I don't see myself like a table. I'm a conscious.
No, I get what you're saying, and I know where you're going with it.
And of course, table is also matter, physical matter. While yes, I have a body, but I know I'm not the body. I'm the spirit that lives in that body.
That's right, because there's more awareness. Exactly. You got consciousness. You got that which is unconscious of itself being conscious.
Yes.
Next,
and so
right, and then you have awareness, aware of awareness, right?
Yes. So we are self-aware. Yes, that's another thing. We are not only conscious; we are self-conscious, which is like other beings. Without going too much into that, there are other beings, living creatures. They are not self-conscious like we are. But they are just conscious, and then obviously a table, you can never call it conscious. It's just something.
Right.
It's just actually it's a man-made thing, but
probably you got inanimate
example to use maybe. Some earth, let's say something of the earth, mountain. It doesn't have a consciousness. It is something physical, but it doesn't actually have any consciousness in it. And
it has consciousness. It has consciousness. But you see, the thing is, when we think of everything is consciousness. Okay. You see, even everything, when we're talking about matter, what's materialized, it is consciousness. But there's the difference with inanimate and animate objects, That which has more awareness of itself, has more objective power, more directive power, okay? That's the reason why you can pick up a table and move a table, right? That's the reason why there's a distinct difference, as you're saying. Matter is finite, limited, while the spiritual source, the vital principle, or the animated principle, that is infinite, unlimited, Now the thing is this, though, when we have to understand that we have a non-physical self, and this is a difficult thing for folk to maybe, because if you're using your mind to try to get this, rather than tuning in to yourself and feel for it. You know, like when you're reaching for something in the dark, you can't see it. It's like reaching for something underneath the chair, underneath the sofa.
Yes.
And you have to just feel for it. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know that there's this thing there. And now you can't see. You're not using your eyeballs to reach it. You're using your arms, but you're using feel to get it. And when you contact, you see what I mean? Now you bring it to you, and then now you see what it is that you felt for and connected with, right? That's just a limited example, right?
Sure.
But it's the difference between trying to intellectually process something to say, yeah, I'm going to get this truth, when truth actually goes beyond the intellectual limitation. It's now when we go into the intuitive intelligence within the subconscious, because you've got a higher consciousness than the sub. You know, the self-consciousness, they give it all like it's three separate things, but it's one whole thing at different degrees of vibration. So you've got your super consciousness, which is above the consciousness of the earthly consciousness, where we usually say self-conscious. But usually the self-conscious that people are aware of is this personality, this personal self-image, this construction, this idea, you know what I mean, that we're believing about ourselves. And then we got the subconscious, which is the deeper awareness, where what's in there playing is what the self-conscious, personality is playing and acting out a role, But the point is, beyond that, you got the super consciousness,
Right.
And that's above the earthly consciousness and those experiencing the physical plane, But we originate from the. You go into the source now. You're dealing with super consciousness. That's where it begins. Before vibrations step down in frequency, to step into the dimension of space and time and space.
Yes.
Now within time and space, you're dealing with material things. You're dealing with things, objects.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Even thoughts and ideas, they're things. And all things that exist in time and space will have a beginning and an ending.
Exactly.
Okay? So this is the reason why when we say about the spirit and then the matter, what materializes, which originates from the spiritual plane, steps into what? Time and space. That's where it exists. But within time and space, there is a limitation. So there is time, but the true essence, the innermost identity of ourselves is timeless. It was never born, So it can never age. It has no beginning. It has no ending. But the form was born, the creative vehicle.
Yes.
You see, the mind, the creative mental instrument is a creative tool, right? That works with the body. You see? So the form was born, but the intrinsic essence of I was never born, because I have no beginning, I have no ending, and that's the true reality of the innermost self, of the innermost reality of each one. But it's how much is the one becoming more conscious of that? You see what I mean? Coming out of the unconscious to become fully conscious of themselves as consciousness, pure, formless awareness. So now matter is limited. So what happens is that when people identify with things in time and space, some people are attached to a table because it was in the family for how long and many whatnot. Some people are attached to the identity of what they see in the mirror as this physical body, and the more they're attached to the physical body, this idea of getting older, and you're dealing with time and space, beginning and end. So there's this idea about death, which seems to be the end. So that false identity makes people afraid, because these are the ideas they entertain, because the ignorance of self hasn't been fully lifted. You see what I mean? You have people that are identified with them clothes and things. So if these things were taken from them, there's an experience of oh my gosh, anxiety, and you have people even attachment to other people. You have folks who are attached to their parents, or the parents attached to the children, and based upon that level of attachment that people seek for emotional security, where they're deriving a sense of identity from, right? then all these things that exist, people, place, and things, which exist in time and space, are all going to have a beginning and an ending.
Yes.
So what happens is the false identity, when the more consciousness identifying with these limitations, is where the experience of loss comes in, the attachment. And you know what I was saying earlier, that if one hasn't purged out of their consciousness the illusion of separation of the egoic false identity, then these attachments, these emotional desires, this is what's going to pull you back into these lower frequencies or these lower vibratory experiences. You see what I mean? Until one raises their or expands their consciousness awareness into more higher, vibratory realities that exist. You see what I mean?
Sure.
So, and what unfolds from those states of consciousness, the creations, higher creations, more harmonic, less of drama, less crude and rough, is more radiant. You see what I mean? More positive, as people would say, more joyous. But the lower the frequencies, people experience drama, because it's all based on the fear of losing that which one is attached to, based upon formulating a certain sense of identity with it. You see what I mean? So this is where, when we try to make permanency out of that which is impermanent, this is where misery comes in. And this is where you got the craving and aversion syndrome, and this is the battle down here. This is and what keeps people in the illusion, the ignorance of self, not having the true light, knowledge of the true light of their being, or not able to discern by using intuition. Some people don't even acknowledge that. You know what I mean? Some people really, what their beliefs are, limited in, especially when people just say they're human and not realizing, well, that cannot be all you are. Just like you're not just your clothes, you're not just your car, you're not just your house, you're not just your children, you're not just your parents, you're not just your partner, you're not, these things are not extensions of you, unless that's what you're identifying with. The truth of it, you're beyond all of that. You see what I mean?
Sure.
So where the confusion comes in when we talk about spirit and matter and saying, well, the spirit is infinite, but see, matter is limited. Yes, it is. What is in time and space? Because time and space is a creation. Yeah? So time and space, there are that which exists. Creation exists in time and space. But that which has a beginning has an ending. It may have a long duration, but eventually has an ending, right? So this isn't ever what would be considered from the spiritual awareness as reality, because one would know that it's impermanent, it decays, So what we are to expand our consciousness to is now what I meant by, I agree with what you said. I agree that we are to expand our consciousness beyond the human consciousness, the material consciousness. You see what I mean? Which is a limitation, and which has created a situation of forced identity. And that forced identity leads people to preserve and try to protect and hold on longer to what they believe without they will perish. When you're imperishable, you know what I mean? But this is why it's all about know thyself. So the work you do here to wake up to yourself while you're in your body, right, is so paramount, because you're working towards your own liberation and freedom. You see? But you said a matrix before, and the thing is, the matrix is this. Yeah? And you want to liberate yourself from it. Those who come in with more ascended consciousness, because your soul is you come in here as a soul, and each soul's unique, and therefore there are souls that have already reached certain levels, you know what I mean? So they come in with this knowing in themselves. So they're vibrating at a different frequency to why they can receive more higher intelligence, you could say, awareness of things that some would consider, that's really deep, man. I mean, wow. You see what I'm saying? Where they would never have fathomed that. But it's not that they don't have the ability. It's just that not everyone comes in here tapped in. You see, because there's this looking out, getting pulled out, and getting caught up on the illusion. So you're trying to hold on to what's impermanent, and now we create this. What's created now is this duality. You see, believing there is an ending when it's only the things you're identifying with that has an ending that exists in time and space. Whom and what we really are is timeless. There's no end. It's imperishable. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, if I were to show you, explain my own understanding of this, I know you call it duality, how you are saying it, but I don't see it as a duality for me, because it's like, like on this earth, basically, I'm a spirit wearing the body, a physical body, a coat.
Yeah.
So, but the coat is not living. The only one living is the spirit. It's like a car and a driver. The car is not alive. The car is just a vehicle, as you say. You use the word as a vehicle. It's just, but who's driving it is the driver, and that's the only thing that's actually alive. So on this earth, the spirit, because it's of a different material, it's not probably the right way to put it, a different species. Again, if I say species, it doesn't make it how I want to say it. So I'm going to use the word. Spirit of it is a consistency. That's the word. So matter is a particular consistency. The spirit is of a different consistency, and for the spirit to function on this earth, which is a matter made of matter, it needs to wear matter, which is a body, or as a car. Well, the car is a bit different because there's somebody. Let me not go into the car right now. So basically, me as a spirit is driving my body on this earth, has to wear the body, a physical body, because this world I live is a matter. The other point is, we've already mentioned, is that the matter is a finite, and I want to use the word infinite only in the quotes, in the sense of eternity, rather than, because in size we are not infinite as a spirit. We are not an infinite size. We're just infinite in our, I have to be careful when I say that, because it sounds...
Well, you wouldn't really be dealing with size, you'd be dealing with what is formless.
Yes.
You see, when we focus and think that, when we see what happens when we're looking at spirituality, and when people think about God and so forth, what gets people, what happens is, what we're dealing with is not a person, right?
Okay.
Source God is not a person. That's why it even says, God is not a respecter of persons. So you're dealing with an impersonal. And that
when you say not a person, would you say a power?
Right? You know what I mean?
Sorry.
It's not a person. So when people are looking, when they're thinking about God, trying to comprehend, or, understand stuff, the problem is that they're looking for an object.
Yes.
And the reality of oneself, and this has been known in ancient Kemetic papyruses, what they now call Egypt, ancient Egypt. This was known in older civilizations, around the world, where we're dealing with more knowledge about the true self, the mystery systems and so forth, where these things were taught to, why you have initiates, those who were ready to step into the true knowledge of themselves after experiencing, this outer world that they were believing is, the only thing, that's what's permanent. So when they're ready, they step into, just like people now, they get self-initiated. The mystery school is you. Yeah, you're the temple. Whereas it used to be preserved and administered in certain ways, because there's a lot of power behind all of this stuff, and it's how you use things. Like fire is neutral, right? But it can use to burn down a house, or it could use to warm up you from the cold, or cook your food. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Is how it's used. So there is that knowledge, that's approach. There's this approach of why there's that principle and framework of talking about love and unity and harmony. You see what I'm saying? All the benevolent absoluteness of the nature of all goodness, the nature of life. So there's a framework, in a sense, you can say, that one has to understand that as they, to embrace the divine principle, the true understanding of it. Okay, the thing is that we're not dealing with a person when we're dealing with who we truly are. So when we're going to think of size and equate oneself with the creator with size, it's like, well, that'd be a misnomer, because the source is not the thing, and neither are you. Neither am I. All things live, move, and have its being within the source, but the source itself transcends all things.
Right.
So I transcend all conceptions of myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because if you didn't have that awareness that is aware and knows that it transcends all conceptions of itself, there'll be no way for one to get out of lower vibrations. One will be, it's like playing a rerun, like Groundhog Day or something. Or you're just having this rerun of just playing one particular character. Or just like you get some actors with a stereotype, and you always see that actor in the same kind of character, playing the same kind of thing, right? All the time. It's like, so if there wasn't the awareness in us that knows itself as that which transcends all conceptions of itself, then we'd be trapped in lower planes, right? But these things are just really vehicles for us. Just like if you're going to go into a different environment, into the jungle, for example, you're going to wear certain different kind of gear. If you're going to go into the ocean, you're going to wear some, put on a different kind of suit, a vehicle, in order to traverse that environment. But you yourself transcend the environment. You're beyond that environment. But for now, I need to put on a certain instrument, get into a certain vehicle in order to traverse that terrain. Because that environment has, is a different type of environment from land. You get what I'm saying? And the same thing with air. You know what I mean? The same thing with so-called outer space, which is really about the inner space. Yeah? There's a different vehicle you would enter in order to traverse and experience that environment, while you yourself ain't limited to that environment. You get what I'm saying? Yeah?
Yes. And just to be clear, so you are saying a spirit is me, I, if I can say that way.
Yeah, the I, the true I. Yeah.
The true I. The true
the
I.
Authentic I, yeah.
Is not a person.
It's not a person. I'm a non-physical aware. You see,
yeah. And
the West has
meaning,
a very formless awareness of being.
Yeah. But a person... okay, so... I mean... you see, the picture I have is not quite this way. How you
I hear you.
Formless.
That's why we got different views.
It's not formless, but and it was, when I was using the word size, it was only on the physical point I was trying to make, really.
Exactly. So because that limits it, because you're not.
Yeah.
That keeps you in time and space.
Yes, I mean, because when I use the word spirit, I want to call it a living entity.
Of course.
And living
well,
entity.
Consciousness is living intelligence.
But as I still want to call it, as Gregory likes to use the word personality. So I do exist as a personality, maybe not the word person, because
what is the
personality?
personality?
Might misunderstand that to be a physical thing.
No, I hear you, but let's go into it. What is person? Personality comes firstly from the word persona, which means mask. Right?
Yes.
So we can use an analogy of that. This is what we look in the mirror, we see this face. It's a mask.
Yes.
But there's an awareness of a presence, a living, a vital awareness looking through your eyes out through the mask. You know you're not the mask because you have an awareness of something looking that's behind the mask, looking at the reflection, which now becomes the mask. So the personality is like a vehicle. Just like even when you look at the word person, it means persona or mask, but you also have the word personification, which also breaks down to meaning through sound. Per through and son is sonics, which is sound. Now sound is what produces is vibration, which produces light, and light now becomes the material substance, the universal substance that forms our vehicles, things are crystallized out of. You see what I'm saying? So the non-visible has a visible vehicle for its expression and its experience of life itself, because that is really within us. Because what is the message? The message was, when we think about, if we go to the Christ message, right? It was mainly about eternal life. But a lot of people focus on the crucifixion, focus on, the death, real or unreal, focus on how many nails they were, it's like, but what was the message? What was the consciousness? Yeah? I am the way, the truth, and the life. Huh? And about life more abundant. So the message is about you waking up that you are the life. You are the eternal life. I am that which is eternal, even beyond eternal. You see? And it creates vehicles for its own expression. He who is within you is greater than he who is in the world. He who is within you who created the world, but the world knew him not. He's talking about people looking out there for the God, but it's you. You are the source. You are the spark or the ray that comes from the sun that is one with the sun. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. I mean, yeah. As I say, this is such a big discussion, so I'm trying to see if I want to go in there or not.
I tell you,
really,
can't
because
open up
because it's like you open a can of worms and you were never going to stop. So I just want to...
Or what's happening when we challenge our belief systems, it's about expanding the boundaries of the box that you end up realizing, hang on a minute, the limitations within what we're holding on to as a belief, right? And there is the necessity, because what we believe is how we interpret life. What we believe determines how we interpret life. We've had beliefs or we've had ideas that have changed throughout our lives. So we know that a belief is not something that has to be with you. Like you can't change it, or it cannot grow or expand beyond the limitedness of what one was thinking or believing in before. And the whole idea when we're dealing with growth is about the expansion of consciousness, because consciousness, intelligence is really the only reality. When you said spirit is living, spirit is the only reality. Yeah, when you use the analogy of the driver of the car, well, the driver is the one who's conscious and aware, but the car is just a mechanical. It doesn't have any consciousness of its own to direct itself, right? So that's the truth, because what it is I am the it's like, look, we can either identify with the animative principle, or identify with the form that is animated. Now, obviously, identifying with the animated principle would be the driver in the car, and the form that is animated would be the car. And the awareness, the more one has the awareness, the conscious awareness of them being who they really is, consciousness becoming a conscious of consciousness, not being conscious of, oh, I'm this car, would expand more into would expand beyond the limitations of being limited to the car, because you realize, hey, a minute, I can get out of this car and go into another car, or not. And the car just has to stay there because it can't move without the life animated principle, which is the only reality, which is the formless awareness, intelligence, life consciousness, I am. You see what I mean?
Now, what I want to say is, what I want to say is there's basically, let's say there's other life forms apart from the spiritual that we are. Let me say it that way. I don't want to say there are other spiritual beings who are not the same, but we are not the same as those spiritual beings. We, the one that I'm talking about, if I can use the word human being, that we are on this earth. The people of us who are on this earth, our origin is, let's say, spiritual, yes, and we are a spirit, let's say. But there are other beings who are also spiritual, but not. If I put it this way, I hope it doesn't get misunderstood. There are higher spiritual beings than us, but we are not able to be the same. Let's say we can't really touch those beings. Let me say it that way, if that makes sense. They are just other beings, but they're on a different plane to us, higher than we can ever be. Let me say it like that. So it's sort of, I make it clear. And I know this sounds like you're separating, because I saw that. We see how.
I hear what you're saying.
Let me just go back a little bit back.
Sorry,
the word. Let me just go back a little bit, because I had like this issue about duality. But this duality, it's not like. I want to say that I don't look at this world as duality. How you are picturing it, in the sense of we are separate. I don't take the word duality to mean that I'm separating myself with somebody else. There's matter there around. I have a body, which is matter, and I'm a spirit that lives in the body, and it is separate in the sense that the matter and the spirit are not the same consistency. They're two different consistencies. But I don't look at that that is a lower order. Let's say, even if it is a lower order, if matter is a lower order to spirit because it's not alive or not on the same level, I don't look at it as like useless or not in a bad thing. I don't look at it as a bad thing. I don't lower that or degrade it. I'm not degrading matter because of it. Let's say it's a lower quality. Let me put it this word: lower quality. Not lower quality because I'm looking down on it. No, I'm not looking down on anything. In fact, I never.
Let me help you. No, I hear you. Let me help you out.
I don't look at it lower quality like that.
It's what the church religion has done. Religion has made people feel like the matter is dirty. So you get people that feel they have to punish the flesh in order to purify themselves because the matter is corrupt.
Yes.
So those type of beliefs can make one look at it the way you're saying you're not looking at it.
I definitely don't see it like that.
You know what I'm saying? That's what
I can never say. If I were to say it in a simple way, let's say God made this world. Let me just say like that. Let's say the religious people think this way. God made this world. And if I say God is good, simple as that, and God is let me not say perfect, I just make it simple. God is good, then He can't make anything bad, and so I know there's bad in the world, but let's just ignore that for the time being. What I'm trying to say is, if God made this world and He's good, and He made me and He made the matter, and I know this sounds a bit too much broken down, but let's say He made everything. So if He made everything and He's good, then I can't look at something bad as matter as being bad. Yes, I might have done, in quotes, something bad, but what God did cannot be bad. He did everything good. So I'm not lowering, and I think we've cleared this already. So the duality for me is nothing to do with good and bad, or something of a lower order being looking down on it. No, that's not how I'm seeing duality at all. For me, and
it's more to
and how you were looking at it was, and just how you were saying it, just to get that clear as well, being separate. So the separateness is that I'm not matter. That's what I'm trying to say. But I do agree with you, it is vibration, and I'm also a vibration. I agree on that matter. It's just like another way I could put it is energy. I'm energy, so is the matter also energy. But I'm not the energy. That's the way I want to put it. I'm not the energy that is in matter. And it might be let's say if we were talking in molecules, yes? There's a molecule, let's say there's a spiritual molecule and there's a physical molecule for the matter. But the molecule that in a spirit molecule is not the same molecule that is in matter. It might be in the very basic element, let's say. I don't want to get confused here. I want to be clear. How can I say? Energy, everything is energy, right? We said that everything is energy, or everything is a vibration. But there is like a level of vibration, and one is alive. That's another way I put it. One is actually alive. The other one is not alive. So, that is if you want to call it separation, you can call it separation. But that's the only separation I'm going to call it. But even that separation doesn't look like to me a duality. That's what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at it as duality. Somebody else might say good. and I hear you say that maybe Christians or biblical people or whatever other people of faith have misunderstood, I would call it misunderstanding, that, oh, I need to leave this body to get into heaven or get into the spiritual world, and it's like, this world is bad, so I need to get out of it to get into heaven. I'm not seeing it, I just see it as a development. We are on this matter right now, in this world of matter, it's part of our development, and then the the goal of our development is to be living on a higher if I say your words, in a high level of vibration, which is in heaven. Let's call it heaven. Let's make it simple like that. Heaven. But that's not matter. Heaven is not matter. So
No.
that's the thing. And yes, heaven is a vibration, and so is matter is also a vibration. But
It's
not
a
like
state of
going down on
consciousness.
that.
Yeah.
So on that matter, I'm basically what I'm trying to do is whatever picture you've described. I just wanted to make it clear that I'm of the same. I have the same picture as you actually, but when we are going to the, let's say, because one thing I don't want to mix too many things. That's like part one of our discussion, and then part two of the discussion was spirit. Let's call it spirit. And, let's call it matter, and part two was spirit.
Yeah.
The spiritual world, or let's say heavenly world, if you call it that way, there's also, I'm going to call it gradation. Let me say like that. There's also gradation. And so that's where I was going to the next point, which is there are other spiritual beings and other beings also which are higher than us human, if I use that word, as others that we are. What we spiritual beings are, there are other beings who are higher than us. And again, there's too much I would like to say, but I'm trying to keep it like this. And so I want to ask you actually, in your sensing or your whatever you know, are you aware of such other spiritual beings or other beings who are, let's say, in quotes, higher than us, who have, but we cannot become those beings? That's what I want to say. Because the way I think I follow what you're saying is we can be whatever we want to be. That's how am I right to say how you see things, that you can be, I can be, or you can be anything you want to be? Is that what you're saying?
That's not fully what I'm saying. I'm saying you are to be who you already are. You know what I mean? What you already is. And
right.
It's, and knowing who that I am is, knowing your intrinsic self.
Yes.
Is what you will realize you are already that which you're looking for, or trying, from this earthly way of looking at it, intellectual way of looking at it, you're trying to reach, you're trying to attain. I'm saying it's about waking up to that which you're looking for is already you are that which you're looking for. There's other ways of saying it, right? But it's to know the true nature of oneself. Yeah, because the true nature of oneself, the intrinsic, which is the inner nature, not the condition, not the condition, societal or condition or cultural condition. Yeah, because there's warpness in that as well. Yes. So I'm talking about the intrinsic identity, the intrinsic nature. And here's this now. There's the nature of the Creator that people are speculating about and don't realize that, but how can you not know that the nature of the Creator itself, the source itself, whatever you want to call it, has its own nature and its intelligence and awareness, which is transcendent to the earthly human perception, okay? Mm-hmm. And that when there's a saying, when you know the source, you know yourself, right? Because there is this, the oneness I'm talking about is that you cannot be different from the nature of your source if you use the premise that your origin of source is that which is the source of all that is, to make it comprehensive, what we're talking about, the source of existence itself, all that is, right? So if that is my origin, if that's your origin, as it was stated, when it was like, I am the Father of one, or when in the scripture the question was, how do you pray? And Christ said, go into your closet and say, our Father. So he didn't say he was inclusive with his source. He didn't say,
Yes.
well, calling on my Father on your behalf to intercede through me for you. He never said that. That's what was said in the scripture. It was our Father. So you're dealing with an inclusive source, right? So if we then use the premise and say, well, the premise is that we all originate from the great original source of life, then from that foundation, how could you or nature be different from the nature of that which you came from?
Yes.
You cannot squeeze oranges and get ginger beer from it. You'd only get orange juice. You wouldn't be able to get something different from the nature of the source of the fruit that you're juicing, other than what that fruit is. So when we're talking about, so there's an importance to understand the nature of source, and a lot of, and it's like this theologian belief or programming that's still there, in different levels in people's, if you ain't cleaning out your consciousness, man, from all of this stuff, then there's certain things that's still playing, running in the background as a program that's not being questioned, that's not being, hey, hang on a minute, you know what I mean? let's burn that. Let's look at that. So we're being taught the mystery. God is, no one knows the workings of God. No one knows the mystery, or God is a mystery. The workings of God is mysterious. God works in mysterious ways. Yeah. Now that's that is to make you believe that you cannot know the very nature of the source of your being. I mean, that's a limitation that if you believe it, then you still create this separation between yourself and your own source. To know yourself, know thyself, right? And you shall know the universe and the creative forces of life. Yeah, that's what the full rendition on the Karnak walls that they took that from, which then you get a Greek rendition of it saying, man, know thyself came from. Okay, so
Okay.
there is this deeper innermost reality that it's how much one wants to absorb themselves in the total reality, right, of the true light of themselves, to know directly, the nature of their source and the nature of the source, their source within themselves, the source of being within themselves, right? So that's where I'm coming from more. And some folk will say, but when God's the creator and we're what's created, and there's all this thing to fight to keep you from, like, even people refusing to acknowledge their oneness with source, which is the greatest humility. We have this idea that arrogance is something, the greatest humility is where one can acknowledge their oneness with the source of all that is, the origin of all life, and accept their oneness with the origin of all life. And the greatest arrogance is to have the nerve to believe that you are other than that. You're something separate. You're something other. You're something, this source is otherness, outness, separate from you. I mean, how could that is what is considered from the spiritual knowingness as the greatest arrogance, to believe that you are separate from all that is, and that you're something other. I mean, with what would you be other than, when we're talking about your essential nature?
Can I ask something on that? So where it says in the Bible, man is made in the image, or the proper word would be after the image of God. What does that mean to you? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, you see, the Bible is originally, when you're dealing with these books here, and they're books, and there were 81. Ethiopia's got all them books. You got, I think, Roman Catholic 72. In this what you call King James, you got 66, right? Yeah. And that book, period, was only able to be interpreted spiritually.
Yes.
And what that is meant is that you have to understand how the stories, how the book is written in a great psychological drama, right? It's written in the format of a great psychological drama, and that even though there's historical aspects in the book to use as support to the stories. It was a great psychological drama where all the characters and the actors in the different books and the stories was representing attributes and qualities of our own consciousness. And the whole book was about the story of the soul, okay?
Yes.
And that's the reason why it is only able to be interpreted spiritually, which is understanding that the stories are symbolic.
Yes.
They're symbolic
Yeah.
stories.
So-
And they're the esoteric meaning, the inner meaning, yeah, of what those stories and characters and actors represented. Even the names and the words have a different meaning, a metaphysical meaning, if we want to say, than how it is being literally taken through the theologian interpretation of the Bible, taking analogies as literal. So this has created a big distortion, right? Okay. So your question, ask me the question again.
Yeah, so what is your understanding of when it is said, first of all, what you're saying, from what I'm hearing, what you've said so far, you're not disputing that actually the words, there's any error in these words of man is made, well, the proper words I believe are meant to be, man is made after the image of God, sorry. Man is made
Well,
after
this
the
is,
image.
okay,
Or, mostly people say man is made in the image of God. But
right.
it is in the if I just to refer to how the Grail message clarifies it, if I can say like that. It says man is made after the image of God, but in partly it is reflecting that there is an image. There is an image there. So, but I really would like to hear how you. I don't think you're disputing those words are actually there's anything error in these words. But I just want to get your understanding of those. And I know it is spiritual, so we are not talking about man on the earth, because again, also in the Grail interpretation of it, we are talking man as a spiritual being, not the man
as a physical,
not physical. So no, the man on the earth, that is not really we know we are just living on the earth now, but we were already, well, I was going to say created, but maybe you won't call it that. But we existed. We existed.
All right.
Yeah.
To answer your question,
Yes.
there's going to be a few, the adjustments in how I will say what I'm going to say. Firstly, instead of saying we are being created, right?
Yes, that's what I was trying to ask you.
Which actually means to produce. It's a producing. Yeah.
Okay.
We weren't created. We drew our being out of. We drew ourselves out of. Like you draw water out from the well, or you draw water out from the ocean, right? The water was already there. It's one with, with the infinite, boundless, right, source.
Yes.
But when we came into individualization, it was more of our being was drawn out of that source of all that is. So when we say created, it gives the mind this thing like, oh, man is thinking, because man has to depend upon things outside of himself. Okay, you want to build a table, you got to look out. You're looking outside. You're looking for some wood. You're looking for trees. So he's chopping down trees to get the wood, and then that's the material he's gonna fashion and design into a table or a chair. Okay, that depending on something outside of oneself in order to make something, is what's also ones will kind of also identify with, he created that,
Yes.
But what we're dealing with here, to get the correct or the esoteric, the spiritual interpretation of that statement, we'd have to understand that when you're talking about source now, and when we're saying about image created in God's image or after God's image, as you said that the Grail mentions it, you still have to understand that, hang on a minute, you can't look at that through the way man, the limitations of the material mind would think of creation. Because source is independent of anything external to itself. There's nothing, when we say the all, which would be the more ancient terms of define or giving a name to that, a vibration to that, which doesn't limit it because it's unlimited. So the all would have been the ancient terms or the source. Yeah.
Yes.
So all is all. For all to be all, it means that there's nothing that can be taken from it and nothing can be added to it. Because where would you take, where would you, if you was to take something from the all, where would you put it? Because the all is the all.
Yes.
Right? And if you're going to add something to the all, where are you going to get it from? Because the all is the all. Right? So if you can add or subtract from something that one is saying is the creator, then it can't, or the all, then it can't be the all. Right? So the all is all. Right?
Yes.
So therefore, all is within the all. There is no outside to the all, because the all is all. That would be the inner knowing of when we would think about the creator from the ancient alignment of the truth before the distortion, where people get God mixed up with the personality, some dude sitting on the throne, somewhere flying around somewhere, up there in the sky God and all of that business, right?
Yeah, that
when
if I were to come in there,
that
the picture
be the source.
Just to come in a little bit, the picture that you are saying, I have no issue with that at all, because
Right.
I'm
So
not saying, I mean the Christians or others, they think, oh yes, here's God, and then let's say, I know it sounds stupid, he waved a magic wand and then something came out, not from God, but somewhere outside of that, he produced it. Yes, I'm going to use the word produce rather than create. Okay, but no, there is only the all, let's say, and then and so it must come from the all, because there's nothing outside. There doesn't exist anything outside of the all. There isn't anything that exists. So it has to only come from the all. So yes, I actually have. Let's say I completely agree with what you're saying there. I don't. That is exactly how I see it too. It's coming from within. If I were to use that way, with this is a bit difficult to say that, because if I say my just to get this clarity here, because I think we agree exactly on this already. We see, both of us, we see God as without any form, right? A source. You use the word source. Yes, I also agree with that term source, but without. Another way to put it is a power, and but it has no form. This is God. God has no form.
You're dealing with formless awareness, and I'm going to lead it to answering your question by going into that.
Yeah.
Should I do that?
And then, but I know I'm jumping here, but look, I just say, okay, so then let's say there's an expression, a personality, personification. We use that word personification. So we, spirit, human being, let's say, we are a personification. So let's say, and following that term or the phrase, man is made, let's say, after the image of God or in the image of God, however we want to say it, if you want to say it like that. What we are saying is basically it's an expression. It's coming. It's coming out of God. Let me say it like that. The man, in quotes, is coming out of God. So we have to be so careful, because then we almost say man is God and all these things start becoming like that. But man, but at the same time, we are becoming conscious, and God is not already, like he's already super conscious. Even the word super conscious is not good enough, because it's like he's the ultimate. Let's call him the ultimate. So he's like it's all. You already said all and one. He's like he's got everything. He's got everything there, right? We are the one who are like coming out of him. If I can say, I know I'm not supposed to answer this question. It was supposed to come from you, but I'm doing it in a way. So I think we are on the same line.
Something to inject before I continue. I hear that, but I've been getting some messages earlier through, and I was getting caught up in a conversation where I didn't inject. But it sounds like the listeners are saying that this thing is echoey. There's an echoey sound, so they're not really hearing the fullness of what we're saying here. And I don't know if there's anything that can adjust it, but we've done most of the show with this echoey sound in the background. It's not coming across like that to me, how I'm hearing. I'm hearing your voice okay. I don't know how, are you hearing my voice with the echo is? I don't think.
You know why you and I never noticed this? Because we are on Skype. You're talking to me through Skype. And, and it's always clear here in the studio, but the listeners hear the broadcast. They don't hear. We are like you're like you and me are talking over the phone, right?
Uh-huh.
And somebody's recording our phone call, and or transmitting
picking up
or
all these
transmitting it. Let me
interference.
say transmitting our phone call, but we are not. But the listeners are not joining us on our phone call. They are being receiving the transmission of our phone call. So that's
Yeah,
what I see. So that is
so we
why
need some
computer.
adjustment. We can do this.
Let me see if I can get some help. Just a second, okay?
Okay.
Leon.
Yo, folks. Yeah, just a little intermission here because apologies for that long, echoey stuff that you must be hearing. I don't know what's going on with it, but technical, you know what I mean? Technology, y'all. So, gonna make some adjustments, see if we can do that. And we will be back with you in a few seconds.
Do you want to have a because I don't think we know what's actually the issue is, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Should we just continue and just hope
All
that
right,
they can hear us out?
let's continue and see how it goes. And
Yeah.
if it's too, in the recording, like it's too difficult to hear, then we're gonna have to do this again. All right? Because it's a good one. It's good.
And maybe the recording is good, and because sometimes it's a separate thing that is recording. So yes,
Yeah.
let's continue. I think it's good to continue. So what I want to say, just to recap quickly, very quickly, very quickly. Basically, how I see it is, let's say there's a God, and everything has come out of God. Let's say, and we are one of those how can I say, a product out of God, a spirit, a human being. As a product, and so yes, there's a likeness, because that's what it says in the image, right? It's a likeness. Sorry, I'm supposed to let you answer this question, and that's so. I'm just giving my answer now. So this is how I am a likeness to God, or because obviously everything comes out of Him. So I have to have something like Him. It's like obvious. It has to be this way. So yeah, please say it how you think, how you describe it.
Okay. I see it differently because the meanings of so when I'm saying now, the reason why it's important to understand this non-physical reality, okay, this formless awareness, and we do experience it at some degrees, but the deeper you go into yourself, you experience yourself as like you're everywhere, but you're aware that you are. You know what I'm saying? So there's this formless awareness. Now, when we use the word in His image and likeness, okay? Firstly, likeness is nature. And when we say image, the word image is linked to, you see, English words are composites, right, of other words joined together. So when you look at image, the word image is I-M-A-G, right?
Yes.
E, right? Well, firstly, the I is a noun in itself.
Yes.
I, right? And usually when we use the word image, we're seeing a picture, we're seeing some form, okay?
Yes.
That's what conjures up to mind. But you're dealing with I, which is the will, which is the isness. Now, the word magi, because the E and the I is interchangeable when you're dealing with words, when you're dealing with understanding how letters are all symbols that are arranged together to create a word. And a word would be attached to a specific vibrational frequency that would or could be the name of a God form. So when one utters the word, they're uttering a vibrational frequency that is attached to a God form, just like you got thought forms, yeah?
Yes.
And then this is how one then, tunes into that frequency and directs that energy, okay? Or tunes into that station and start to pick up the information along that frequency of intelligence, yeah? But that's some deeper science, right? Which some will talk about, say that's occult stuff, which just means hidden. But the point I'm making here is that when you're dealing with magi, M-A-G-I, that's plural for magician.
Right.
And when you're dealing with magus, magus is singular, right? I think that's the way around. But anyway, the point being is that a magus or a magi or the magi's, which you even have them in the story of the nativity play. So, you know, you got folk that we're not talking about David Copperfield and the deceptive ideas of and the distortion or inverted meaning of this word magi. Yeah?
Yes.
I'm talking about one who controls the elements through the and manifests things through the direction of their own will. Right?
Yes.
So I Mitch, right? So we're not dealing with you cannot you see conceiving. You see, in the beginning, when it goes, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Yes.
Esoterically, what that really means, but you're going to have those who are theologians, and they're going to dispute that and want to give you this physical interpretation, limited, man-made way of, even the way they still think about the God like in our likeness, image, and likeness.
Yes.
It's like you're still thinking, what the heck? You know, you're still thinking a person.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? What it is in the beginning, right? Now you're talking about time and space being created. But Source was before time and space, so Source created time and space, right? For that which is to be created to exist with it, and have its own duration of time, and have a space to be a place, yeah? For that creation to be, or that form to exist, okay? So when it goes in the beginning, and then in some other translation, it's actually Bereshith, which is in the remaking. So it's like, so I'm going to go to actually the source principle, the creative principle, because when we deal with that part of that statement, there's layers to that. And that deals with other beings that you were chatting about, that you mentioned, I mean, that has come to this planet, yeah? And other beings that do exist in the boundless universe that are of different levels of intelligence and of different intentions and nature. Just like we're on this planet, we got billions of people, and there's so much different temperaments and, you know?
Yeah.
Attitudes, intelligence of all of them, okay? And all the different type of looks and all of that business. You're dealing with a boundless universe teeming with life, okay? So that's just basics, yeah? You know, people have been so dumbed down in a sense where, you know, you have to tell folk, oh, you're not alone in the universe, like, huh? How could you even think you are? You know what I mean? Yeah? As a child, you would look up at the skies at night, man, and come on, man. You know you're not alone, okay? Because what's happening as well is that you're dealing with a non-physical reality, which is more real than what you can see, which is just dependent upon your five senses. And we got inner higher senses more than the five, okay?
Exactly.
And so when we're talking about in the beginning of the word there, what it's really saying is this. In the beginning, there was an unconditioned, formless awareness of being.
Yes.
That became conditioned by imagining itself to be something. Then the unconditional awareness of being, the unconditioned awareness of being, became the something it imagined itself to be. And this is how creation began. Right? So what it is, therefore, now, you're dealing with consciousness that is conceiving within itself something. And you have the term where people say, you can't get something from nothing.
Exactly.
But the thing is, no thing is just that. It's a state that transcends something. So no thing is a state of existence that exists, which transcends things. Because it's no thing. And from the no thing, which you can then say nothingness, the all, yeah,
Yes.
is the source of all things and everything. Because it's not limited to a thing. You're dealing with it, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all things live, move, and have their being within it.
Yes.
Because we've already established that, well, the all is the all. All is within the all. So there's no such thing as anything existing outside of the all.
That's right.
Right? So therefore, just like all the marine life exist, they live, move, and have their being within the ocean. Well, when we're dealing with the universal principle, the universal source, origin of all life, we all exist, live, move, and have our being within it, just like our thoughts and ideas and feelings and these, which you can say are like entities, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They live, move, and have their being within our awareness of them. You see what I'm saying? And that's the only way they exist, right? So when we're dealing with in the image and likeness is nature.
Yes.
Right? So therefore that's saying, well, the nature of source, the pure consciousness, and is the nature. This is why we have to know thyself. Know thyself, you'll know the nature of life. Because source is life, the source of all life.
That's right.
So then we are dealing with image, and, well, the source is independent of anything to exist. So it's not dependent on anything outside of itself to generate, draw forth, create, if you want to say, yeah?
Yes.
Whatever it imagines itself to be, which is conceived in its own consciousness. This is how we create. What we conceive in consciousness is what eventually materializes, and it be experienced in the physical plane. Because on this plane, we're experiencing the manifestation of our beliefs, right? As the nature, likeness, source is the creator. So therefore, we're creative too. But we look at it, when we're not dealing with our true inner nature, the formless awareness, we're looking at creation from the earthly material mind, which depends on things outside of itself, things that have already been produced and already made. And then you're just rearranging the stuff in different formats. But you're still dependent upon things outside. Well, source ain't dependent upon anything outside of itself. And neither really are we. Right? But then we're being told, well, man, now in these days now, oh, the power of your mind, the power of your consciousness, oh, the power we have within, and all this and that. And a lot of folks is still trying to grapple, to comprehend that. Because they see themselves as flesh, blood, and bone. And that if I want something, I got to look outside of myself for it. Because they believe the source is outside themselves. And they don't realize that, no, everything is produced of your consciousness. So this is where then, that's an esoteric statement, what it means to I is how creation came in. Because first you got that which is conceived. First you get the conceiver, and then that which is conceived. And then that which conceived it becomes it. You see what I mean? And without that process, there's nothing that comes into being that is made. Nothing. It's the law of being. So this is the reason why consciousness or divine consciousness intelligence is the only reality, because it's the builder of the house. And then it's like the wave in the ocean. The wave is drawn out from the ocean, right? But the wave is still connected to the ocean. But then the wave has a time duration. Yeah, it has a certain beginning, and it's going to have an ending within time and space, and then it's absorbed back into the ocean. But the ocean is consistent. The ocean is always there, right? But you see what I'm saying? So the analogy of the ocean of consciousness, or the analogy of being the formless awareness, which is the ocean, right? I'm the soul, the ocean, and out of the ocean, the waves are drawn from the ocean as a vehicle of expression to exist in time and space, which has a beginning and ending, and when it's finished, it completes its duration, it's absorbed back into the boundless self, which transcends all form. Are you with me?
Yes, I will just summarize what you said, is that we are an expression of the source, which is an expression. Yeah. And the source has no form, but we do. The spirit has a form, and but basically everything has, it's just basically everything outside of the source is a form, because within the source is only formless, and then everything that's coming out of it has taken on form. It's just got a form.
It is something, exactly. But a source transcends all things.
So there's nothing, and then something. It sounds ridiculous to say something can come out of nothing.
Exactly, but it
the
does.
other way to call it is all. It's actually all, but it doesn't have a form, which also sounds hard to understand. What can have something that is some all, but it has no form? But that's how it is. It manifests only, or manifests may not be the right word, but it exists.
It's the unmanifested,
has no
right,
form.
undifferentiated source intelligence of existence, and it itself is independent of existing or being anything to exist. That's our essential nature. But at the same time, it can conceive within its own being whatever it imagines,
Yes.
and become that something. Now that something becomes the vehicle of its own expression. It's not separate from it. Like the wave isn't separate from the ocean. But it's all about awareness. Where is your consciousness centered? If your consciousness is centered right at the tip of the wave, then you're going to believe you're separate, and, you know what I mean, separate from the ocean. And the more you're going to be attached to this limited idea of, oh my gosh, existence, and you're trying to hold on for a so-called dear life. And then, but what happens is, eventually the wave does get reabsorbed back into the ocean, right? But if the center of consciousness, of awareness of the individual is more centered to the ocean, and realizing, hang on a minute, I'm the soul, not the personality, while they're in the physical form, and then realize there's a state of awareness where one realizes that the wave is connected to the ocean. Then now there's an integration. The personality is realizing its oneness with a greater source than what it was identifying with before. And then the consciousness then graduates to become fully centered in the soul. And then now one's aware that they are the ocean and the wave. And that the wave isn't really them. It's a temporary, or it's an avatar, right? And its purpose is to be a vehicle for the ocean to express itself and the ocean to experience itself, right? In order for the ocean to experience the memories of its past, its prior lives, okay? And this is how the soul, this is why I said that all are the firstborn, first birth. All suns are stars. Okay? And then out of the suns come the planets. You see? So, there's a science to creation. When we're dealing with the divine intelligence, and it's all within ourselves. This is, the more we wake up to who he is, the more we begin to tune into that. So when you're saying now, are there higher beings in the universe that are higher, or I should say higher intelligence, you can say that there are higher versions of ourselves.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Okay? And while we're in this physical form, the entirety of ourselves not in here, we're boundless consciousness, and it's only a part of our consciousness that's focused in this personality, this present structure, right? As a creative vehicle for further experience and growth for the soul. That's the reason why you're here, right? For that purpose. And we could either be in harmony with our soul's intention, and then our growth would be more harmonious, unfold harmoniously, or we could be in resistance to our soul's intention, and we experience cataclysmic evolution. You know what I mean? Whole drama and destruction. You see what I mean? Ups and downs. Bruises and craving and aversion, all of that, pain and sorrow. But if you're in alignment with your soul's intention, which is the real, only reality, the divine intelligence, divine consciousness, then we are in harmony with why we come in here in order to grow and expand beyond, the limitations of the earthly plane and the force identity, believing now that, oh my gosh, the vehicle, the wave is you in its entirety, when no, you're the ocean. You know what I mean? And the source of your personality was drawn out from this ocean. But your personality has a time and space, but the memories remain. After it goes back into the ocean, because you retain it all. Because I am all in all. That's what it means. All in all. I am all in all. But we have made the egoic idea of being separate from the source, which is the greatest arrogance anyone could have. is why people find it difficult to understand their true relationship with the source of all that is, and they're looking for a body. And when you're formless awareness, and that's why the West and its science, because it's so material thinking, it has a problem in acknowledging life without form, will, intelligence, consciousness, nature. You know what I mean? It's got its own temperament, everything. Yeah, without a form, they find that difficult. That's the reason why they're always looking for life forms. But life itself is independent of forms. All forms are drawn out of the life. You see what I mean? That creates these forms as its own vehicles of expression. So there's a saying in the old deeper mysteries of the Sufi mystery systems, because in each religion there's a mystery system which goes to the core of the real truth rather than the outer periphery of the allegories being taken literally, which is used to control the masses, the ignorant. You have to go into the inner center, right? So you got a mystery system in all of these so-called religions, where the mystery system was the original. It wasn't a religion. It was about the truth of yourself. So in it, there's a saying where man is called the secret of secrets, where it says man is God's secret and God is man's secret, and only God knows the true nature of what man is. You see, because as I said already, that the unconditioned formless awareness became conditioned by imagining itself to be something. And then the unconditioned formless awareness of being became that which it imagined itself to be. And that's how creation began. So source actually exists within its creation, but always as itself. Like the driver exists within the car, but with the full awareness that it's not the car. You with me?
Yes. I mean,
and knows what the car, the purpose of the car, and what the car serves. So there's a harmonious relationship with the driver and the car.
Yes. How can I say? I can follow what you're saying, and
also, let's say that there is another explanation, if I'm going to say it like that, for this, which is a different. How can I put it? You see. It's all these assumptions that we start with will lead to the answers we're going to get, right? I mean, this is just common sense, of course. And if you're somehow, let's say we made a mistake, I'm going to say it like that, in an assumption, then obviously, I mean, the beautiful thing about all these things is, if it is incorrect, any assumption is incorrect, it's going to become inconsistent at some point. Some place it's not going to make sense anymore.
Okay.
I like to think very, very simply. And what I would, if I were to respond, I would just simply say, there is one assumption that was made that, let me say, life is about God is life, let's say.
Okay.
He is life. And of course, the word he doesn't mean it is a he, of course.
Exactly. I was going to say, someone was going to say, hang on, this is a she.
This is our problem. This is our problem because he's neither he or she or he's both.
Yeah, because people still think of personality.
But we have to use words
with principle.
Because really, because again, it's a form, and he's not a form. He or she is not a form. He's no form. He actually is no form. So it's very. But we have, because we ourselves are a form, and we have to use words to say this, to speak to each other. That's how we communicate. So we just have to use those words. But we mustn't be, let's say, stupid to just take the words literally. That's what I would say. Don't take any word literally. Try to make sense of the word, so that when we talk, we are talking on the same line and not talking on cross purposes. Because that's so. I know when we are talking, we are not talking on cross purposes, because we know what you are saying, and I know what you are saying, and you know what I'm saying. So there's no confusion. But we don't know if other people who might be listening, if they're talking on the same level. Not that we're trying to say we are higher than anybody, but they may have a different understanding of those same words that we are using.
Yeah.
Like you say in the Bible, they take it all separating. In the beginning was the Word, or in the beginning was God, and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and so on. Yes, but that when you use it in that way, well, God existed before the beginning because He existed. He's always existed. There was a beginning. There's never been a beginning. He's always existed. So that makes no sense. But then we ourselves do have a beginning, because there was a time when, let's say, there was only God. This is being very, very simplistic now, and it's not completely correct either. But again, this is something. How do you and I are going to know this? How are we going to verify this? It's almost.
Well, the thing is that this is where the direct experience, because this is what we're talking now. This is kind of mental, kind of like, okay, we're communicating. But where I'm coming from and why I'm able to say what I'm saying is that, you see, it's about going beyond. You have to go into direct experience. You even have even the statement that to talk to source directly, right? So when you go deep into yourself in that stillness,
Yes.
right? When you enter, and the more you allow yourself to become totally absorbed within the source of your being, within the awareness, when you even the whole, all right, another way of saying it, let go. Yeah, let go of the force identification of the psychological identity, right? The psychological, emotional self-image that we hold on to. When you can let go of that, because it's an idea.
Yes.
Like majority of all the other things people got in their head that they're disputing about, and what you said, making assumptions or presumptions, whatever,
I don't want to call it presumption. It's just an assumption, because presumption is
right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just less. It's being neutral, if I say that, because presumption is obviously is a guess, and
but it's also how you use the word assumption, because it's the way the word is used, because you can say, assuming something, like you're assuming you know what someone's thinking or doing, when it's like, actually, they're not doing that.
That is actually presumption, because you don't know what they're thinking. So.
Exactly. But then there's another way of using the word assumption or assume, when they say assume the position.
Yes.
So you now become like that which you're assuming. So that takes on a different level of assumption, of being to end up into assumption, because you're now becoming that which you want to align with to be. You see what I'm saying? Now this is on a consciousness level and on vibrational. Yeah. But when we're dealing with just human thinking, assumption makes an ass out of you and me. That's what they, you know what I mean? Because it's totally wrong.
Yes.
But the thing is that it was always known in the mystery systems, and anyone going to it, you in whatever way that they come to it, you come to realize, listen, it's only through direct experience you can know the source, because only source can give you direct knowledge of itself.
Yes.
It's like, why must I go and ask the next door neighbor about somebody who lives with, you know what I mean, who lives with you about them?
Exactly.
You go direct to the source, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is how the knowing comes in, which goes beyond the sword fight of the mind. It's only when you see those who doubt and question is because they haven't had direct experience to degrees where they know through direct experience differently to, well, we're still assuming this, or intellectually hypothesizing that, and because there's no direct experience, which is why it's difficult for a lot of people to understand about the Christ thing, because it's all about believing. You're believing in somebody else's experience in order to, you know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, this is
when you're supposed
belief
to have direct experience.
is basically it's like blind faith, and we can't. That is all the old stuff which we cannot ever, use anymore. Those days are gone, because there's no, you don't feel, I mean, how we call it is conviction. You never really get conviction from that. It's just
Exactly.
It's just an assumption.
So we can only
Well, the
help
word is
to-
assumption. You're still assuming something, and it's
Yes.
not satisfactory. I mean,
Yes.
the thing is, really, we need to know. I think that's the bottom line. And experiencing is the way to know. Experiencing is the way to know. And I can only say it's a journey, and you've got to strive. You must want to, connect. Let's say. And, the
you
more
must
you
desire it.
open yourself to connect, of course you'll be led towards that. And so I can see, I can hear, and I can see how you have come to know what you've come to know. I can see it.
Yes.
And what I've got to know or came across, let me say, is, let's say, part of it is definitely my own exploration, but a lot of it is, that's why I know where you come from about having a book where you are taking in of somebody else's knowledge or information, which is not your own, but it's somebody else's. And then all I will say is with it's the striving, what we, how pure is your striving, how really genuine and determined you are to get to the source. Let me say it like that. Connect with the source.
Yeah, of your own self.
The more serious you are about connecting with the source, the more you, and genuine, of course, then of course you will be led. It will
Exactly.
It will connect with you. You will connect with it. I mean, I know it's the thing is. There's one thing you said where, because you took it this way, that it's arrogant to say that I'm not, like say, the exact words is out of my head right now. But you were saying basically it's arrogant, really, to say I'm not the source or I'm not connected, cannot connect with this. I don't know.
It's arrogant to not seek to realize and accept your oneness with all that is.
Yes.
It's the greatest humility is to acknowledge and accept your oneness. Come to a point where you acknowledge and accept your oneness with all that is. That's humility.
Yes.
But it's arrogant. The greatest arrogance is to have the nerve to believe you. What? Wait a minute.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Wait.
Okay.
You're not one with source. You are some other separate thing. Wait. You see what I'm saying? But it's never
if I
put
were
to
to
us
say
that way.
it a different way, let's say I'm a
to us
spirit.
that way,
If
you
I were
see.
to say what you said in a different way, which might sound not quite like you, but I will say, let's say every spirit has been implanted. Well, everything in a way, everything. But let me just say it like this way only, just to be clear about this one. So every spirit has been implanted that it cannot be happy and be at peace unless, I'm going to use the word, connects with the source.
Right.
It cannot be happy and it be at peace unless it has found, not only connect, it must find and connect with the source.
Or remember its own innate oneness with all that is.
Oneness,
Because
I
it's
can
actually
agree
a
with the
remembrance.
oneness as in this way. When you say oneness in the sense of unite
Or at
with the
one
source. So,
Sometimes
but
they
oneness
say at
doesn't.
moment, at
Okay.
moment, you know.
Yeah, I want to just understand the word oneness. How you your understanding of that word and oneness. Are you saying you are the source, or you can connect and be?
Well, to say to connect is like saying you're not connected, right? It's about consciousness, and it's about the oneness is realizing your intrinsic union with all that is. Just like the statement, I and the Father are one.
Yes.
Now, the Father is symbolic of your spiritual origin and source. It's not a person with a great, big, long, gray beard and sitting on a throne.
No.
It's symbolic. It's for the fountainhead, so to speak. The mother principle is there, which is when you now deal with the esoteric oneness of the creative principle, you're dealing with, you can say, Father, Mother, Life. Father, intelligence, Mother, love. Okay? And when it's working through the masculine, it's intelligent love. When it's when it's working through the feminine, it's loving intelligence. You see what I mean? It's all so
Okay, let
you're
me.
dealing with the twin power, which is like polarity, the principle of polarity, which is really the two extremes of one thing, like hot and cold. Right? It's two extremes of the same thing, temperature. All right? You know, wet and dry, you know, hard and soft. They're two extremes of the same thing. So one transcends the opposition in the sense of thinking one thing's separate to the other, and then you have this idea of verses, this versus that, and that versus this, and you keep creating separation, right, based on judgment and putting unequal measures and weights on things. You transcend the duality or the conflict that duality brings when you come to understanding the law of polarity, and you transcend duality because you now realize you're dealing with two extremes of the same thing. So now you step into the art of mental transmutation that enables you to transcend from a negative, a lower plane of mental operation to a higher plane of mental operation through focusing on the positive pole, the opposite pole to the one you're on, to raise your, you see what I mean? Mental frequencies, called mental transmutation. So these are principles, universal laws that knowing thyself we work with. It's just like focusing, what you focus on, you amplify. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if you were focusing on what is not constructive, to change the experiences you're having by that from that mindset would be to focus one's attention on that which is expansive and elevated. You see what I mean? And constructive. You see what I'm saying? So we can direct our own vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Just imagine you're in a car and the steering, you're driving along, the steering wheel gets stuck. You can't turn left, right. You're just going, you know.
Yeah.
You're not able to direct your car. So when you're able to direct and control the vehicle, you end up having a safe drive because you know how to operate it and direct it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
You see, so there's these spiritual, this is what you could say is spiritual technology. You know, consciousness science, this is what it's all about. But I tell you, it's about mind science. When the mind is an instrument for consciousness, and the mind works with the body. You see what I mean? So you can say that consciousness is the spiritual plane, the mental now, yeah, your mind and the ideas, what's kind of, because it's an energy field. You see what I mean? That interpenetrates the brain. So it's of photon light and cosmic rays and, you know, it's operating within an electromagnetic field. So your mind actually surrounds your whole body. But it works through the body. It works, it's your body's operating through your mind. So whatever information that you're holding in the mind as a container and focusing on, then it creates that in the body. Because every cell knows what you're thinking, you know. This is why we have to listen to the body, because it's an instrument to serve you. You know what I mean? Where you are vibrationally. You know, what are you creating? You know what I mean? Through your state of consciousness, you know, that now is going to be manifested through your mind and body, you know?
Yes.
It's the knowledge of self that enables us to transform tragic to magic. You know what I mean? But you have to desire to know this. And it's work, you know. It takes us, it's clearing out, you know, all of the programs in the subconscious that's contrary to the master intention within. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's about directing your own car. Many folk will kind of just say, oh, I can't help it the way I think and feel, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, as you said a little bit before, you have to, if you truly desire to want to, and I would use the word remember, you know, yourself, the source of your being, then you will be drawn to it. It will open up for you, but you have to have a strong conviction that that is what you desire, because it starts with self-effort, you know.
Yes.
But you know, but in the way where you're directing your focus of your consciousness, you know. So and there's so much things that's being used in society to distract you, draw your attention, to focus your energy, to energize things that don't energize you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is the thing. So
you know what?
Yeah.
We've been 2 hours and a bit now. So,
okay.
And I think I'm happy we have what I'm saying, because this discussion can never end. So you know that. So it's
yes,
just so we should have, as they say, they like to they say when they have TV programs, always leave them something to look forward to for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Do you like what I'm saying?
They call it a cliffhanger, right?
So we want to have not that I want to promise that I'll do another 2 hours or something. I just want to say that, yeah, because there's loads we can go into here, and it never ends. So what I want to say, let's because there is something I want to still explore with you, but if I will be here till midnight for that, so I don't want to do that now. So what yes, thank you for so much for what we have discussed tonight. And I mean, I will let you know. Okay, let me just say a little piece of mine, and then you can, of course, finish off. So basically, the second, let's say the next tasty installment would be, which is to continue this discussion further, would be to explore and discover the it's all to do with I and the Father and are one, because that in quotes is the assumption, or I'm going to use the word assumption, that will lead, that how can I say, comes to this conclusion that we are going through, talking tonight. And if, let's say, it was a different not assumption, but because Jesus said those words, I and the Father are one.
Yeah.
And I know when he prays or gave the prayer to us, and you said it as well, the Lord's Prayer, our Father, obviously including himself. I have no,
and including everyone else,
and everybody else, and everybody, and I don't have any query on. I don't even question that. However, we just got to take it in the context of what he says. The first one, he said, I and the Father are one. And that's exactly correct. Put it this way, whatever he said was the truth. Every word he spoke was the truth. He himself is the truth, and the Father is the truth. And in fact, there was something else I was thinking. When you're talking about the source, we call it the truth. The source is the truth. Source is life. Source is all that. Everything, all in one. Everything. Yeah. And then the next, only the other one is where you said in the Lord's Prayer, our Father, meaning including Jesus and us, of course, everybody. And then of course it's also correct in that. But my and that would be the next, as I say, part of installment of our discussion. What does that actually mean? Let me say it like that, so we leave people in suspense. What does that actually mean? Because I think I have a different meaning of that than how you, what you are saying so far. I think that's how I want to leave it. We should explore it more. That's what I'm going to say. Let's explore that further, because my understanding is a bit different from what yours is. And yes, we should explore it more.
And that's all good,
Because this is a journey. Honestly, this is a journey. I've enjoyed the journey.
A journey in consciousness.
A journey in consciousness. And it has really been helpful for me, I must say that, hearing what you've been saying, because I think it's the first time we've talked like in a very calm and happy and very, not first time that we've not been happy, what I'm trying to say is, like this, we've been able to go to this level because there have been moments in the past where things haven't gone smoothly, let's say, and here we were able to do this. You speak, I speak, and everything calmly. You reflect, I reflect. It's like a very easy, how it's meant to be. Let's put it that way. It's just how everybody and the listeners also, I hope, have enjoyed it. So please, Sam, say what you need to say. Whatever you would like to, as a.
Well, yes, and thank you. Yes, and everything. What you said, yes, I agree with that. And the last words, well, for now, I would utter is to say, to simplify the formless awareness of oneself is to realize your awareness of yourself has no form, right? And that can be experienced directly, You know what I mean? You can know this through direct experiential, and it's not that difficult. You see, it's the mind that gets in the way and identifying with this and that. It's like clouds, that obscure the sun, but the sun is still there, So, so what I'm saying is your awareness of yourself has no form. And that is also what has been sent to me also as a message, which is just confirming what I'm saying here. So, and the oneness, we will go into that deeper next time, because this oneness begins in you, this integrity. Integrity is from the word integration, and it means that, when you realize you're an integrated whole being, because source is wholeness, and this is where you get the word holy from. Wholeness. It's even when you get the word perfect and perfection, which is the action of perfect, which is being misunderstood, miscomprehended, because people think that perfect means, or is used in a way to say, nobody's perfect, what, you've never made a mistake, or, or that if it's perfect, it's complete, it's end, so there's no more growth. And that's some very erroneous in a comprehension, because perfect means complete. And there's a statement where in the scripture where we're dealing with it esoterically, when we're dealing with it in spiritual teachings, where it says that be as perfect as your Father in heaven. Now we know that Father in heaven is not to be taken literally. Its esoterical meaning is be as perfect as your spiritual origin and source, of infinite supply. Okay? So perfect is whole. It correlates with the word wholeness, holy, wholesome, and wholesome means health as well. So this wholeness, a lot of people don't feel whole. They don't feel they're enough. Again, the psychological, emotional imprints and ideas we picked up along the way in this world have been erroneous, and it's not given us the right understanding of ourselves, and even understanding the feet. Pisces represents the feet because your feet stand under you. So it's about, do you have the right understanding of yourself, or an erroneous understanding? You see what I mean? This is what it means about washing the feet, but we can go into that another time, because this will go into more hours. So your awareness of yourself has no form. Ponder that or contemplate that. You see what I mean? To expand one's understanding of the nature of the source of being, rather than depending on some intellectual ideas you have about it, because they're all ideas. So, and this discussion, we're going to have different points of view, which is all good, great, because it's about what assists in expanding consciousness. It's not about challenging to convince another of why you want to hold on to this belief, and well, my belief is this, and well, I don't believe that, I believe this. Nobody gets anywhere with that. Exactly. Because if you're afraid of examining your belief, then hang on a minute, maybe the foundation ain't too good. And if that's what you're using to determine how you interpret life, then one has to just look and see how they're experiencing their life and see, well, look, man, is this belief something that's making you appreciate life, or is it burdening you? You can, you don't have to hold on to that. You can expand your consciousness by allowing yourself, if you're sincere about it, genuine about it, to know the source of your being. And it starts with coming home to yourself. You are the temple of the living source, what I mean, of all existence. So that's what what I would say. And I will, I suppose, end it with a tune, because I didn't play my intro this evening, and this would be an appropriate way of ending the show. And until we join in next Tuesday, okay, on another Cosmic Root Show, everyone. And this is being with Brother Siayome and Bro Saad. What would we label this, brother? What would you say?
Yes, please tell us what you'd like to call it.
We could say discussions, the non-physical and physical self.
Yes, self, discovery of self, and exploring the discovery of self and oneness. Because there's a oneness.
Well, I think oneness is what we're going to go maybe deeper in.
Yes. Yes.
So with this, it was very much more about, spirit and matter, the non-physical and the physical identity, the identifying with intrinsic nature, different to the programmed condition one. So I suppose, discussion on the non-physical, you could say the discussion on the non-physical spirit and physical self. Physical.
Yes. So
okay.
Just say it again. Discussion of
on the non-physical spirit brackets and physical,
Self.
yeah, self.
Yes. Discussion
Visible.
of the non-physical.
Excuse me. No, what I said, excuse me.
Yes, go on.
I said discussion of the non-physical, spiritual, and the physical. Yeah, self. What am I talking about? Yeah, dude.
Got it.
Yeah. With Brother Siayome and Bro Saad. So, yeah. So all you listeners there who are still tuned in, this is live, y'all. And this is just like you sitting in the sitting room, just, you know, a living room, and, yeah, just consciousness expansion, medicine talk, y'all. Okay?